present, and we'll do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Additions, revisions to the agenda. Teresa, do you happen to have extra agenda?
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, additions and revisions to the agenda. I want to add under unfinished business 6.6, consider approval of day wireless bid for antenna upgrades for the courthouse roof repair. Came in last minute. And any other changes, Sherry?
I don't think so.
Okay. Under 4.0, correspondence and public comment. We'll start with public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. Give your name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. Is there any public comments? Here. Under correspondence, we received a letter from the Gilliam County Historical Society dated August 2nd to all 3 of us, and it's just a nice thank you note for the grants they received. We approved an operational grant and a special projects grant, and just telling us a little bit more about what they're doing with them and some of their projects they're working on. So just wanted to make note of that. It's in your packet, maybe Sherry, but we'll get you a copy.
Okay. Should be in that.
Maybe in the very back of it.
It's after the 6.5.
Consent agenda 5.0.
I would love to. I would something consent agenda.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of July bills pending review, consider approval of July 17th regular meeting minutes, consider approval of revised personal services contract with High Desert Writing Services, consider approval of Columbia Basin Electric cooperative application for activities in the county right-of-way, consider approval of agreement with Pictometry International for aerial photography pending council review, consider approval of amendment to IGA with Lane County for mapping and GIS maintenance, and consider approval of IGA with Harney County for mapping and GIS maintenance pending council review. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I do want to, for the record, Commissioner Weatherall wanted to let everyone know that she is absent due to family emergency for second this week.
Yeah. Thank you for remembering that. After we said that, I thought I needed to say that, and I forgot. So we will be thinking of her. Yes. In a hard week. We'll move into unfinished business. 6.1, Frontier Telenet update. We're there, Sherry. So I don't know how much we need to actually update, but maybe just for the record that things seem to have stabilized quite a bit, and so Frontier Telenet will be meeting again until October. We tasked Don Hull, which is the Frontier Telenet's counsel, with drafting a request for proposal for someone or a firm to help manage sort of the day-to-day administrative needs of the organization. And other than that, I mean, that's really kind of the biggest development. We were putting on hold the Telecom Council search until we see what that RFP looks like, because we may have somebody. Really, I think we were using Jim primarily for regulatory filings. And so if we can find someone that has the technical expertise on the management side, then we may not need to pay legal counsel prices to have that be done, which would be great. And that's about it. So we'll meet late October. 6.2, consider approval of Pillar Consulting proposal for Ardent Mills door replacement. This is, you probably already, do you need me to set this up, or do you?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm quite familiar with what's going on there as I've been meeting with Jeff Schott and Nan Lawrence about the needs for the building repairs, so.
Maybe just for folks watching at home, this is a proposal from Jeff Schott with Pillar Consulting to do the engineering and project management related to some door maintenance needs at the Ardent Mills facility, basically. So he'll take care of that for us and do the security upgrades they want to do and all that kind of stuff.
Much needed.
Yes, it'd be great to get it done.
So I move to approve the professional services agreement with Pillar Consulting in the amount of $8,200 for the design and project management of door replacements and upgrades at the Ardent Mills facility.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the professional services agreement with Pillar Consulting in the amount of $8,200 for the design and project management of door replacements and upgrades at the Ardent Mills facility. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. 6.3, discuss future plans for Shutler Station batch plan. So we received a letter from Thompson Brothers, basically giving us notice that they were going to terminate our lease, the lease with for the batch plant effective July 31st. And the court, way back when we first started, had determined that we were not going to be doing anything with the batch plant until that lease was terminated. So now that it has been, I actually got a call from Hood River Sand and Gravel after Thompson Brothers contacted us, wanting to talk to us about either leasing it directly from us or buying it. And obviously if the buying process would have to go through the whole surplus thing where we wouldn't just sell it directly to them. But so I guess the question is, do we want to pursue a lease with Hood River?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
The same as we had with Thompson Brothers.
Okay. So what I'll do then is I will go back to them and make sure that those terms were what they were thinking. And then I'll either be bringing back a new agreement, or if they want to negotiate the rates, then I may be bringing back a counteroffer from them.
Okay.
So that sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Just for our, I would suggest you guys might want to look at the terms of relating to the loader that's down there. That
Okay.
Last I knew wasn't operable. You may want to
Is that
remove
included in the
that.
lease?
It
The loader,
was
was it
previously,
part of it?
it was part of the lease.
Okay. Thank you for that. Just making a note here. Okay.
They want to consider selling in the surplus. Somebody might want it for parts or.
The loader.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Julie indicated that it.
it's not much more than scrap at this
Yeah.
point.
All right. I will have more.
All right.
More to come. 6.4, discuss lease agreement with the City of Condon for the Ward Street shop. So this is a special transportation project. And so Marla, Catherine, and I have been discussing the county leasing the city's Ward Street shop. So the shop that's right behind City, it's right behind City Hall. And what we've been discussing so far, and we'll see council's meeting tonight, so we'll see if they're game for this, is basically special transportation would be, the lease would be $500, but in lieu of lease payments up front, special transportation would basically pay to upgrade the buildings. So there's places that it needs concrete, there's a bunch of work that needs to be done. It's about $31,000 or so in repairs, the initial estimates have been. So we're looking at about 62 months worth of rent. So basically the city would just be crediting $500 a month against that, those upgrades, and then once that has been sort of met, then we would pay the $500 a month. Our council is reviewing it. The city council is going to talk about it tonight and see if they're comfortable with that sort of term. So we don't really have, this is mostly just an FYI, but it'll probably be coming back to us either the 21st or depending on what the council says, if we need more revisions, then maybe the first week in September.
Okay.
So that's it. Anything more on that, Captain?
Just to make sure that Gilliam County would be responsible for all the utilities, electric, water, sewer, internet, anything they're going to put into that building, they're responsible for the utilities. It doesn't count against the $500 payment.
Okay. 6.5, discuss fiber management partnership with the city of Condon. So Catherine and I have been talking about how to structure sort of a joint partnership in managing our new fiber line that just was finished last week. And so we got together last week, maybe 2 weeks ago now, to kind of outline some initial thoughts on how the partnership would work. So we're looking at, right now it's leaning more towards an IGA. We had originally kicked around the idea of an ORS 190, just to kind of create a governing body so that there was a way for us jointly to make decisions more efficiently. But the city's legal counsel is saying that he thinks that IGA will get us where we need to be.
Yeah, it's still going to have to fall under like ORS 190, some of the rules, but it's not going to be a formal organization like a Frontier Telenet or a TRICOM or whatever they're called, Frontier Regional 911.
Yeah.
It'll just be an intergovernmental agreement to work out the financial structure, is basically what it's doing.
Exactly. So we talked about doing 5 board members, so 1 elected from each entity, and then either a staff or community member from each entity, and then those 4 together would select the 5th board member, so that we've got sort of equal say in that. Let me see what else. We were talking about then the lease agreements for the fiber would be made with that entity rather than, so they wouldn't be coming to us or to the city and trying to shop between the 2 of us. It would just be releasing all of our capacity jointly, basically. So they'd come to the entity and we'd do the lease agreements through them rather than having it come through one governing body or the other. We also talked about appointing an administrative entity, and I've talked to Nathan about running it through Gilliam counties, and he's okay with that. So we would, we're looking then at probably housing it in the treasurer's office and having Nathan and Kelly collect payments, and then a portion, and then once those bills are paid out, I think the bills will still be paid out through Ellen, and we just run it through a regular AP, so there's good separation of duties. But then what's remaining, we talked about splitting between the 2 entities at a 66-33 split based on the initial investment, so if that makes sense. So once we get everything leased and we've paid out inland developments $4,000 a month, any legal fees that we need for finalizing lease agreements, those kinds of things, once the bills are paid, then Nathan would work on distributing the city's 1/3, basically, in the same way he does to the other taxing districts. So,
And where does the initial funding come from to establish?
so that's a good question. I mean, right now, we're just individually paying our own maintenance, so we haven't worked that piece out.
So what I foresee it as, Sherry, is that what's going to happen is it's going to be run out of one entity, and either at the end of the year, we decide if we have more expenses than revenues, we need to pony up the money to make sure those are taken care of. And hopefully in the next 2 years, we'll have more revenue than that, and then that's when we split. But I'm guessing that the first year until we get it leased, it will be us, whichever takes it over first. Hopefully it will be the county. Then we would just pay them the expenses to make sure it's covered, our half of the expenses to make sure it's
So it'd
covered.
be a 50/50 proposition.
Yeah, expenses will be split 50/50 since we're 50/50 on the cost of
Right.
the month. And then
And then
the revenues,
will be.
hopefully it'll be over and above, can be split based on investment. Now, this hasn't gone before our council yet, so
This is just Catherine and I kind of,
And
they're looking at it tonight.
history makes me very cautious about how things are written up so that when something is dissolved, we know whose money went where and who gets what. And
we don't have any problems with that, do we?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, and
That's
so
my caution.
make sure you look at the termination clause and make sure that this is going to cover what it is, because if it doesn't, they may want to terminate it. They may want to terminate the whole partnership, but,
Yeah. And I've noticed now, originally in my summary, I had said that we'd split them 50/50. The expenses we split 50/50, but just for the record on the revenues, we talked about 66 and 33. That was an update that we did a week after I did that.
we kind of want to make sure though the board is advisory.
Yeah.
But we want to take the pressure off the council and the county courts that hopefully they will advise, hey, what should the rates be? What should the agreements look like? And then they'll come up to the governing bodies to approve them. But we also wanted to, it's kind of a fine line to walk. You want to make sure that one entity, the city, can't overrule anything that's been decided on jointly. So that's kind of the,
We're trying to figure out, yeah, how to manage it so that it's not coming necessarily every decision before the governing boards. Because we don't want one, you know, if there's ever down the road, if the city and the county aren't getting along, we don't want to stymie each other from being able to sell our fiber, you know? So figuring out how to still provide oversight, but have a partnership that's gonna actually work with sort of a
And the
collaborative.
66-33 split is based on,
The initial investment, so we put in 1.2 million and the city put in 600,000, is that right?
620, about 620.
Yeah.
okay. And council is,
Council's reviewing it.
Reviewing it now. Both councils,
Our council drafted it.
your council drafted it.
So,
County council's looking at
And this was just the first shot.
Right, right.
And so any
It's a work in
changes,
progress.
yeah, so any changes you can think of or something, email, the court email me after tonight, I will email out to, I'll coordinate with Liz, and then we can figure out what we want to see and that's not in here. This is just the first shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds do like, it does sound though that we need to add language on the, if revenue doesn't cover expenses, how that partnership looks, just so that I think we'll have the revenue pretty clear, but just on the expenses, if expenses are higher.
Okay.
So we'll plan on this probably coming back, are you thinking September for this one? Yeah,
I'm thinking it probably will be,
Okay.
since we only meet once a month.
Oh,
But I can have, when you guys meet on the 21st, if I have a bunch of changes from this evening, I can get Wyatt to redraft or make our changes or any changes you see before the 21st. And then you guys might be able to say, oh, this looks good, but we'll either have to have a special meeting or wait till the 4th.
We can wait, I think we can wait until September.
Yeah.
if it's not,
It's
it's not
not-
urgent.
it's not
It just
critical.
needs to be done.
Yeah.
And maybe there needs to be some language in too about how the board is going to approach the customers, but I don't think that's gonna be a huge deal, probably overthinking it. I'm just thinking about, we need to bring the potential providers in after we set rates. And if they all say, wait, that's too much, we need to have a way to say, okay, but to negotiate. So and we need to bring those people in soon. So hopefully right after September, we can approve this and bring the potential customers in.
Start having revenue.
Yeah, so think about who you want to appoint, I'll make a note of that too.
Okay.
Think about who you want to appoint for that advisory committee or board, so as soon as it's signed, they can get to work with setting rates and getting ready to contact customers.
Is that something we want to advertise for? Is that how that would, or is it?
For
So that
for the second person, we probably would. I mean, the elected will be one of those. Will be
Yeah,
one
but
of
that's
us.
obviously, but for,
You're gonna serve on it.
oh, yeah, right. Okay, good.
No, I think we'd probably just advertise it the same as we do with like the road department.
Yeah, that's what I
Vacancies.
see.
All right, anything more on that one?
Not right at the moment.
Okay, let's go on to 6.6. Consider approval of day wireless bid for antenna upgrades for courthouse roof repair. Do you have a copy of it?
No, I don't
Is it
think
buried?
I do. I did, but I don't, did I have that? No, but that was an add-on.
That was an add-on.
Since I printed, yeah.
So,
I just need to look at it and give it back to you. So I've got it in front of me one time. Thank you.
okay, so this is related to the roof replacement, and this is just, Day Wireless is gonna come in and clean up some of the antennas. I wish Jeff was here because he can tell you exactly what they're doing, but I think there's a huge one up there. I think they're replacing it with a smaller one that's gonna be the relay between the ESD building and here for the sheriff's office. And then there's an extra relay that we were using for our internet service here that will be going away because we're getting connected to fiber shortly. So this is basically for the equipment and the work to, they're gonna move transportation's antennas as well for wireless dispatchers. So it's between the equipment and the actual work to do it and shipping, all that kind of stuff. So my recommendation is that we go ahead and approve it and take it out of the same facilities line item that we're using for the roof replacement. So, do you have any questions? Okay, I would move to approve the bid from Day Wireless Systems for antenna upgrades related to the courthouse roof replacement project in the amount of $3,595.20.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Day Wireless bid for the antenna upgrades related to the county roof, or the courthouse roof replacement project in the amount of $3,595.20. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
What fund did you say that was coming from?
It's gonna come out of the facilities fund, which I don't have, it's our long-term, I don't have my budget with me.
I can provide me today. Leslie threw me off this one.
Okay, 7.0 new business. We'll move on to 7.1. Consider request for funds from Gilliam County Fire Services. So, during budget season, we decided that entities that had existing IGAs would not be required to go through our grant process.
Right.
And that we would start automatically funding them through the budget, which is great. Gilliam County Fire Services has an existing IGA, needs to be updated, different conversation, but neither the budget committee nor the county court specifically said, yes, we're funding them and we're funding them out of this sort of pool.
Okay.
So what I'm looking for is us to formally approve funding for fire services and designating where it needs to come out of, basically. The IGA actually has us at less than 60,000. But historically, they just bumped it up. We've been paying that amount since 2013. So I'm thinking we just go with it for now, and then when we negotiate the IGA, if we need to adjust those amounts, we do it then, and kind of clean it up.
I'm sure that's what they have in their budget.
Yeah, so I don't really want to throw them into a tailspin if they're
Absolutely not.
short on money. And then I'm gonna recommend that we just take it out of the discretionary line item for now. And then for next year, I had Nathan and Kelly just make a note that we need to find a a permanent place to put them. And that's it.
Well, I move to approve the funding request from Gilliam County Fire Services in the amount of $60,000. Funds to come from the SIP discretionary line item 235-1005-505120.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the funding request from Gilliam County Fire Services in the amount of $60,000. Funds to come from the discretionary line item 235-100-550-5120. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 7.2, consider donation to the Gilliam County Auction Committee. They are requesting that we help support their livestock auction. Takes place obviously during the county fair on the 31st of August. I had Ellen and Dawn look to see how much we've donated in the past, and the last 2 or 3 years, the court has donated $400. We have a donations line item in county court's budget, so we can just take it from there if we're in agreement that we want to make the donation.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
So I would move to approve a $400 donation to the Gilliam County Auction Committee for the 2019 Gilliam County Fair. The funds to come from line item 101-103-550-5160.
Second.
The donation line item. It's been moved and seconded that we approve a $400 donation to the Gilliam County Auction Committee for the 2019 Gilliam County Fair. The funds to come from line item 101-103-550-5160. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're just flying through this agenda, Sherry. Last one, 7.3, consider approval of restated Frontier Regional 911 IGA. So the Regional 911 Board went through a pretty extensive, like several months long process reviewing and revising the IGA and the bylaws. The IGA had been updated when Jefferson County joined. There was a lot of typos. It still referenced 3 counties instead of 4. It was like they put Jefferson County in, but only by name. They didn't change throughout the document. So a lot of it was mostly cleaning those things up. But there were a few other changes of note that were more significant. One was I had them add that Regional 911 has the authority to acquire property from another ORS 190. And this is just with an eye toward if anything ever happens with Frontier Telenet, that Regional 911 would be able to acquire those towers and equipment without having any legal hurdles. It also creates an executive committee. This was a request from the sheriffs, and it's driven by Jefferson County's sheriff in particular, who I think wanted more day-to-day authority over what the agency director was doing and how she was managing things.
Okay.
And so basically the 4 of them meet and they're able to sort of address users' complaints more quickly than the board can, which meets on a quarterly basis. So the idea, and then one of those sheriffs then has the authority to supervise Renee day to day. And so right now, they're looking at having Sheriff Smith from Wheeler County be the supervisor. Just for personality reasons and time, they thought that was the best fit. And it seems to be working pretty well. And then the third kind of change was if there's internal complaints, those go to the executive committee first to find a resolution. And then that team will bring it to the board for kind of final approval. So if it's something that's can be just easily resolved and they just need somebody to mediate, then that executive committee kind of takes control of that. And other than that, that's pretty much it, except for cleaning up typos and all those little things. So in order for it to go into effect, all 4 of the county governing bodies need to just approve a restatement, basically is what it is. And so this was approved by the board itself and asked that we take it to each of the courts and commissions to get it reapproved, basically. Questions on that?
What was my question? Membership of the board of directors. So each sheriff of each county, who is the sitting judge or commissioner is on that? Is
That's me.
that it?
Although if you would like to be on it,
Well, I
just
think
let
you
me
just
know.
appointed me to another committee.
You're on CAPCO now.
I'm not sure I am.
Not
But I was
officially.
the fiber thing, I would be willing to do that.
I'm fine with it. Yep,
But, so yeah, so you get to stay here.
I like it. Okay.
Negotiations. I told her I'd take some of her stuff off the plate, I had to do it. So yeah, that answers my question there.
Okay.
And this was drafted by,
This was drafted by Frontier's legal counsel, which is Frontier Regional 911's legal counsel, to clarify, because we have two Frontiers, which is, he's Wyatt Baum, is the city, sings the city, so.
I move to approve the restated intergovernmental agreement creating Frontier Regional 911 Agency.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the restated intergovernmental agreement creating Frontier Regional 911 Agency. Is there further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Sherry, you're up on court member reports.
Well, all right, I get to go first today.
You do?
I attended the July 18th NORCOR meeting. It's just a regular board meeting, but it also, we're rewriting the bylaws. So that is a work session that we're incorporating into our meetings until we get the bylaws completed.
Seems to be a common theme through all of our
It is.
bylaws and
Yeah, it's
IGAs.
really interesting too to see how each of these bylaws read and where they came from initially. Kind of upgrades when we did this done after 15, 20 years. Something that's antiquated. And then we meet again on August the 15th. And I attended the Tri-County Court meeting, the Frontier Telenet meeting on the 24th of July, which was here. And then I am planning to attend the court meeting that's in Arlington on next Tuesday. Just to see what's happening.
I'll have you take that one. I'll be in San Diego.
Okay, good. All right.
Anything else?
And that's it. Calendar says.
Well, on my end, I had a good conversation with Kathy Schwartz from Wasco County about building codes, and she gave me an update, which is that their commission is going to be meeting, I think this morning, in a little work session to consider our counter proposal, and I'm hoping then that I will hear back from them this afternoon maybe, or later this week, is my hope. And then I'm hoping, once I have a firm answer on that amount, then I'm gonna reach out to Karen Pettigrew at the city board about the services, building code services. Trying to think what's going on. Next week, Amy and I are gonna go down to Salem. They're doing a model juvenile court initiative where they're just looking at ways that they can, circuit court and us can better, can make more improvements to our juvenile court systems and do more, sort of more integrating more kind of developmental, like understanding decision-making that our youth have when they're making these decisions kind of thing, sort of. So anyway, there's more details I can share later, but So I will be gone next week. And then I think that's about it right now. Lots of little things, getting things done. Obviously, I should have mentioned too, for the record, we have our new administrative assistant on board. I'm really excited about that. So Teresa started yesterday. She's still here today, which I think is a great sign. And so we're happy to welcome you here. And I think that's it for today. Okay. Any other announcements? Our next meeting will be August 21st. We are looking at, we will be holding an executive session to do interviews for our chief of staff applicants. And so I think what we'll do is plan on scheduling those in the morning, probably starting about 9. And that we will go ahead and hold the court session then in the afternoon so that we can accommodate plenty of time for the selection committee that morning. If that works for you, we can do maybe 1 o'clock.
Sounds good.
Okay. So
Pencil right into my calendar.
we will do that. Any other business for the good of the order? All right, it's 11:06 and I'll adjourn the meeting.